Ladies, I want to talk to you today about something that doesn't get discussed enough. We live in a world that tells us that having a network, a tribe, a circle of friends is the ultimate marker of success. It's almost as if you don't have those friendships, you're somehow missing something, like there's an invisible gap that others can see, but you can't. And that's a painful place to be. So let's take a deep breath, because today we're going to speak truth to that pain. We're going to talk about what it feels like to be a woman with no friends. And before you think that this speech is about pity or sorrow, I want to offer you a new lens. One where you see that what might feel like loneliness can, in fact, be a fertile ground for self-love, growth, and transformation. First, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. Society does not make it easy to exist alone, especially for women. From the moment we're young, we're taught that friendships are a necessary part of our identity. The Disney princesses, they've got their squad. The influencers, always surrounded by a crew. The message is clear: to be whole, you need friends. And not just any friends, but the kind of friends who show up for you, laugh with you, celebrate with you, support you. But what if you don't have that? What if the phone doesn't ring as much as you'd like it to? Or maybe you've been burned in the past, betrayed, let down, and now you find yourself keeping people at arm's length. What if you look around and realize that you're standing alone and it feels like something's wrong with you because of it? I want to let you in on a little secret. You are not alone in feeling this way. You are not the only one who has navigated this path. In fact, you are far from it. There are so many women walking this earth quietly dealing with isolation, but they don't talk about it. They don't admit how hard it is. They don't tell you that at times it feels like they're carrying the weight of the world with no one to lean on. But here's the truth: you are not less because you don't have a best friend. Your worth is not defined by the number of people who show up at your birthday party or the group chat that's constantly buzzing with updates. Your worth is defined by your ability to show up for yourself. Your worth is found in your own resilience, your ability to navigate the hard times and still get up every day and move forward. What if we reframe loneliness? What if we choose to see it not as something to avoid, but as an opportunity for self-discovery? When we're alone, we can't hide from ourselves. We can't drown out the voices of our own fears and insecurities by filling the silence with chatter and distractions. Instead, we're forced to look inward, and in that quiet space, something beautiful happens. You start to meet yourself. Yes, the fear of rejection is real. The memories of times when you reached out and were turned away can haunt you. The sting of loneliness can be deep and raw. But I want you to know that this fear does not have to define you. It does not mean you will always be alone. It simply means you've been hurt, and that hurt can heal. That scar can fade, but you have to be willing to face it. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, but Oprah, I still want friends. I still want meaningful connections, and you absolutely should. It's okay to want that. But here's where I want to challenge you. Don't wait for someone else to complete you. You don't need someone to fill your cup. You need to learn how to fill it yourself first. Because when you are whole and at peace within yourself, you attract people who will meet you at that same level. So embrace solitude. Use it to grow into the woman you were always meant to be. Rediscover what brings you joy when no one is watching. What makes your heart sing when you're alone in your room? What sparks your creativity when there's no one around to distract you? What goals do you have that have nothing to do with anyone else? And let me tell you something important. You don't need a crowd to be significant. You don't need a best friend to have a fulfilling life. The only thing you need is the courage to stand in your own truth and the wisdom to know that you are enough exactly as you are in this moment, with or without the external validation. You are worthy of deep, meaningful connections, but before you go seeking them, I want you to find that connection within yourself first. Heal, grow, love, and learn, and when you do, you'll find that the universe has a way of bringing the right people into your life at exactly the right time. So let's rewrite the narrative. Let's stop believing that our worth is tied to our friendships, and let's start believing that we are whole and powerful even when we walk this world on our own. Loneliness is one of those emotions that doesn't get talked about enough, especially for women. There's this quiet, almost unspoken struggle that so many of us face, the feeling of being alone, disconnected, or like we don't quite belong. Society doesn't like to acknowledge this kind of loneliness because it makes us uncomfortable. In a world where friendships are celebrated and social connections are seen as markers of success, admitting that we are lonely can feel like admitting failure. It's like a secret we hold inside, one that we feel ashamed of, even though in reality it's something so many of us experience at one point or another. The truth is, loneliness isn't just about being physically alone. It's a deeper emotional isolation. It's that feeling that no matter how many people you know or how much you're surrounded by others, there's a disconnect, a sense that no one truly understands you. Maybe you've been hurt by people you trusted, or maybe life has simply moved on in ways that left you behind. It's when you reach out, but the connection doesn't quite click, and you wonder if something is wrong with you for not being able to build the kind of deep, meaningful relationships you crave. There's a gnawing ache that comes with loneliness, one that often feels too heavy to share with anyone. It's like an invisible weight that only you can feel, but no one else can see. This loneliness can be particularly isolating for women because of the societal pressures we face. There's this constant expectation that we should have a circle of friends, a group of women who support us, celebrate us, and who we can call at any moment for comfort or advice. We see it in movies, we see it in social media feeds, we hear it in the stories that people share. The image of the strong, confident woman with a group of loyal, loving friends is everywhere. And if you don't fit that mold, you start to wonder if you're doing something wrong. If you're not part of that tribe, do you somehow not measure up? Are you not enough? This kind of thinking can create a deep sense of inadequacy. But loneliness isn't about a lack of friends. It's more about the longing for connection, for meaningful relationships where you can truly be seen, heard, and loved. And when those connections are absent, or when the ones that are there feel surface level or unfulfilling, loneliness can become a constant companion. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about how many people follow you on social media or how many likes your photos get. It's the emptiness you feel when the phone doesn't ring, when the invitations stop coming, when the interactions you have with others leave you feeling more isolated than before. But here's the thing, loneliness isn't a reflection of your worth. It doesn't mean you're unlovable or unworthy of friendship. It just means that the connections you're craving haven't come in the way you expected. And it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the absence of friendships means something is broken inside of you. But it's not true. What it does mean is that you're going through something that many of us go through at different times in our lives. You're dealing with a gap, a space between who you are and who you long to be in relation to others. And while that gap can feel excruciatingly painful, it's also a space of possibility. You see, loneliness can be an invitation to turn inward, to reconnect with yourself in ways you may have forgotten. When there's no one else around to distract you, you're forced to ask the hard questions. What do I really need? What do I really want? Who am I beyond the roles I play for others, wife, daughter, colleague, friend? There's a quiet power in facing those questions when no one else is around to answer them for you. In those moments, you have the chance to rediscover your own strength, to learn to enjoy your own company, to create a deeper relationship with yourself. And yet, despite this potential for growth, loneliness still hurts. It hurts when you're in a room full of people but still feel like an outsider. It hurts when you realize that for whatever reason, the bonds that once seemed so natural have frayed or simply disappeared. It's especially hard when you've been let down by others, when people who you thought would be there for you have proven unreliable or untrustworthy. The scars of those experiences can linger, making it even harder to open up to new people, to trust again. Loneliness is often tied to the fear of rejection, the fear that if you put yourself out there, you'll be met with indifference or worse, with judgment. We fear that no one will be interested in getting to know the real us, the raw, unpolished version of ourselves. So instead of reaching out, we pull back, we hide, we keep our hearts locked up. And yet in doing so, we only deepen our isolation. What makes it even more complicated is that loneliness isn't always something you can simply fix. It's not as easy as making a new friend or going to a social event. Sometimes it's about learning how to sit with it, to acknowledge it without letting it define you. It's about finding peace within yourself even when no one else is around. And that, my friends, is the real challenge, to come to terms with the fact that loneliness is not the enemy, but rather an opportunity for growth. It's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to admit that sometimes you're struggling. You don't have to pretend everything is fine when it's not. It's okay to feel the pain of isolation, because in that pain you can discover the depth of your own strength, the depth of your own resilience. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that in time the loneliness doesn't feel quite so sharp, quite so unbearable. It becomes a part of your story, but not the whole story. It doesn't define you, you do.